organizations, one, need to prepare their workforce to be conversant with AI, to be able to understand what AI systems are doing and how, to some extent, AI systems are taking the kind of decisions that they are, and also empower the humans in the loop to override any decisions of AI that they disagree with, right? So that is one important adjustment that companies will have to start making.
Welcome to our interview with Raghuram Srinivas. Raghuram is the head of products and innovation at MetricStream, which is the world's largest independent provider of governance, risk, and compliance products and solutions. Raghuram, welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast today.
Of course, yeah, thank you, Boris. Thank you for having me here.
It's my pleasure. So I believe, Raghuram, we will have a very thoughtful conversation on the topic of the impact of AI and the emerging technologies on the risk and GRC in 2025. But before that, could you tell us a short story about yourself, your career path, and what brought you to where you are right now, and what you guys at MetricStream are up to these days?
Yeah, sure. First of all, again, Boris, so thank you for having me here. I do enjoy your podcasts and the interviews that you've done over these years with several other prominent industry voices. So I look forward to our discussion here. Now, back to your question. Like you rightly introduced, I'm the head of products and innovation here at MetricStream. MetricStream is a global leader in the GRC technology space. We create products for governance, risk, and compliance that organizations big and small can benefit from. Now, personally, I started my career as an application programmer, developer. Uh, Grew up through the ranks. I was with IBM for the longest time. I was with the Watson Labs at IBM, and over these years, spent time working with KPMG, JP Morgan Chase, and now at MetricStream. Now, of course, during the course of my industry experience, I've been working on financial services, on risk technology and compliance software. And that was a natural extension for me to be here at MetricStream. MetricStream, being a global leader, was an attractive place for me to come and further hone my skills and also contribute back to the community.
All right, fantastic. So you also PhD, right? On your
That is correct. Yes, yeah, I do have a research background. I have a PhD in computer science and statistics. And by the way, fun fact, my PhD thesis has the word generative in it. But this was years before, years before what we know of generative as of today. Yeah, but I usually say this. Yeah.
So you are actually in forefront of all these technologies you developed it years ago.
Well, so back in the day, yeah, generative had obviously a different connotation in terms of generative networks. It started out with this concept of autoencoders, variational autoencoders, so on and so forth. Now it has evolved into something spectacular today. It's fascinating to see how the field has grown as well.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's dive in our topic. We are seeing some AI involved very rapidly in more and more aspects of business. And from your perspective at MetricStream, what are the most significant advantages you see business gaining from embracing AI? And conversely, what are the primary risks that they need to be actively aware of?
Yeah, sure. Boris, you're right in your observation that there has been an explosion of AI, both in the industry and in general in public as well. Uh, Now, I strongly believe that has happened due to the democratization of AI that ChatGPT and Google Gemini have kind of brought about to our culture today, right? Now, when I ponder over your question, so how has AI impacted the industry, or what are those impacts and the risks? I see this as another trend in series of trends that have occurred in the IT industry over these years, right? So I usually say this, if you go back to a few years, back in the 90s, it was we had all these green screens, and there was an evolution into the ERP systems. And then ERP systems and web-based applications became a thing, and it was default mode. And then you go 15 years ago, it was, a SaaS applications and cloud-based applications were just starting, and it was the same sort of discussions and apprehensions companies had. Oh, what will happen to my data if I go to the cloud? Am I still secure in terms of the data that I own? Who will have access to the data, so on and so forth. But cut to today, you see cloud-based applications, SaaS applications being the default setting for most products, right? So I see AI also taking the same course, where it's just a matter of a few more years where most platforms, most applications will be innately AI enabled. So I feel, history, if one has to look at history and derive what we're going to see in the future, it's that AI is going to be a default setting in applications going forward, and companies, will end up embracing AI in different forms. Now, what makes it interesting is the innate ability of AI to also, understand, reason, and learn. So, which is where all these elements of, AI risk management practices or the governance and policies around AI now come to the fore. Obviously, organizations need to ensure that they have right governance practices in place. Uh, the risk assessment and management capabilities specifically for handling AI risks need to be developed and put in place in organizations. And needless to say, whatever controls they have to have in place to ensure, the ethical considerations, or ensure that there is explainability in terms of what an AI recommendation is or what an AI system is saying, so companies can actually understand what AI is saying and why it came to that decision. These sort of controls also need to be put in place. So I would say, together with these, I feel companies could be in a better place to, one, uh, benefit from the AI revolution, but also do it in a very responsible manner.
Mhm. So let's describe in few words how do you see these ethical considerations kind of involved in or kind of applied in daily life of this implementation of AI. So because we need to ensure that the reliable and ethical deployment, particularly in all areas like bias and data privacy.
Absolutely, yes. And so why don't I start with that, right? So one is the data privacy considerations too. Now, this is quite popular in news today, in terms of some of the litigations that big tech has gotten into, right? In terms of the data that it was trained on. Now, who owns the rights to the data? So that's an important ethical consideration in terms of how these AI systems are getting trained. What is the data that the AI systems are getting trained from? And is there an ability to go back and cite the source um, of the content that AI systems have used to get trained on? So that is one element of ethical consideration. The other element of it, obviously, is the bias, right? So what is AI being trained on, and is it trained in a way that that there is no inherent bias in the AI systems. Of course, there are some controls, there are best practices that are out there that have been defined in terms of how organizations can account for these bias. But this is something that organizations have to continuously keep revisiting to ensure, they are the AI models and the AI systems are bias free. And one more thing that I'd also add is the ability for AI to be either autonomous or yeah, running in an augmentation mode. Just imagine this, right? Now, if you're using an AI system, now is the AI system working in a mode where it just automatically takes decisions and acts on it? Or is there an ability for the subject matter expert or the human to intervene and override the recommendations and the decisions of AI? Now, that also plays a significant role in how ethical these AI systems can actually be. Now, I feel like if there is that human control, the human in the loop, element, then it can, to a large extent, mitigate some of these ethical risks that AI systems can provide. And more companies have such controls in place where there's a human in the loop, where AI does a lot of these repetitive rote work, but at the end of the day, it is the human who's sitting and making the final decision. We could mitigate a lot of these risks.
All right, awesome. So we have seen this surge in AI regulation because of what you described, biases and a very kind of negative things, as always with great innovation. How are these regulations impacting the way businesses are implementing AI, and what are some of the key challenges companies face in compliance with these new rules, regulations?
Yeah. So it's interesting here, right, in terms of the regulatory landscape around AI. Now, this is evolving. Obviously, the EU AI Act has been a harbinger in terms of the AI regulations. Now, I would also say these regulations have also helped the general cause of organizations being able to adopt and use AI systems, because it provides a responsible framework under which organizations can responsibly deploy AI. Uh, Now, the EU AI Act, like I said, is a marquee regulation in that sense, where it has provided very clear guidelines in terms of classification of AI systems. And the good thing about that is also, based on the classifications, it's provided parameters where it says, well, so these are certain places where you do not want to have an AI system in place, right? Versus some places where AI systems can be there, but with varying levels of controls in place for those. Now, OECD is another framework, which is again a global consortium that has come together to define a classification of AI systems. Now, I find this extremely useful in the sense they've actually looked at various elements of how an AI system could be classified. This would be things like the human, ethical, environmental context impact that AI can have. Things like can the consumer of AI override the outcomes of an AI system, or things like, how proficient is the consumer of the AI system to understand what are the kind of decisions the AI system is taking and the ramifications of those systems, right? So these play into how organizations can then classify the AI system, its impact, and the controls that they can put in place to mitigate the adverse impact of AI. And then you have the NIST RMF a framework that also kind of defines what controls, actions, etc., have to be defined to regulate AI systems. Now, while these policies and guidelines are getting developed, on the other side, we also see a challenge, which I feel at this point is a temporary challenge we will overcome over a period of time, which is, with all these regulations in place, who's going to audit it, right? Are there enough auditors, and are there auditors who are knowledgeable on how to go audit these AI systems? Uh, so that's a current challenge that exists today. Now, I see that ISO with its 27001 regulation also has um, compliant auditors, has defined the roles and responsibilities of auditors of such systems as well. But that I feel is like a current problem that exists today, but we should overcome as a whole in a matter of a few years, as there is a more explosion of AI, and there is also the growth in the number of auditors who can responsibly audit such AI systems.
Mhm. So, yeah, I would like to hear your opinion on a potential of job displacement due to AI. How do you see the role of human resources involving in increasing the AI-driven economy, and what skills will be most crucial for the workforce of the future?
Yeah, look, that's an important question. Now, here again, I would go back into history, right? And there has been several such waves of innovation that have happened in the course of human history, where this very specific question has been asked, right? If you go back to the 1800s, the 1900s, with the Industrial Revolution, the same questions were being asked. Now, will machinery displace human labor? and to the most recent past in terms of all the enterprise resource planning applications or the HR systems, so on and so forth. As and when these applications have been introduced, the role of humans and the effect it has on humans has always been questioned. Now, I see this question that you're asking today in the context of AI as being no different. I feel that the humans are very resilient in terms of adapting themselves to what they need to be doing to still survive and thrive in a changing economy, right? So in that same context, I would believe with the AI revolution coming in, uh, there will still be need for humans in the loop but in terms of the skills, you would expect the workforce to be more conversant with AI, the workforce to know how to use AI to be more effective and efficient in the jobs that they're already doing. Uh, and I would also say, right, in the field that I'm representing today, which is governance, risk, and compliance and audit practitioners, at the end of the day, AI can help in a lot of these crunching of tomes of data. But at the end of the day, the final decision has to be taken by a human, right? By a auditor or by a compliance a manager or a risk officer. Let's face it, the regulators cannot put an AI system in jail, can they? They still need a human for that. So the accountability still stands with humans there.
Yes, that's a good answer. So, Raghu, I would like to ask you a personal point of view. What is a kind of major misconception in this field of AI implementation that you kind of strongly disagree with, or what kind of pitfalls during the implementation waits for practitioners?
Yeah. So, it's an important question, Boris. Now, I see the misconception it can be in two broad spectrums, right? On one side, there is a camp that is all in and bullish on AI, and there is another camp that is overly skeptical on AI, and these misconceptions arise on both sides. Now, on one side, you see, uh, you know, organizations and champions of AI in organizations go all in on AI and say, well, AI is a magic fix for everything, right? Or there is also a misconception that, well, if there is an AI model that works today, it will work forever. Now, I'll just give you an example, right? In one of my previous jobs, I was working on building an AI model for anti-money laundering in the compliance space. Now, it was, these models were deployed and these models were working fine. And the role of this model was to flag transactions, retail transactions as potentially fraud or not. Now, when COVID hit, the models obviously got confused. For the same person, when you look at that person's account pre-COVID, about 90-95% of an individual's transactions would be conducted in person, right, with the card present, and a small percentage was conducted online. But when COVID happened, the the whole pattern reversed, where about 90-95% of the transactions ended up being online. Now, is it fraud? The AI model very rightfully started flagging them as fraud transactions, right? So this goes back to a live example of that one misconstrued philosophy that, well, an AI model that works today will forever work. So organizations, once they deploy the model, have to keep going back, revisiting the conditions under which the model was initially conceived, built, deployed, go back and adjust as they see fit.
Mhm.
And on the other side, in terms of broad-based skepticism, there is very genuine concerns about data privacy, concerns about bias and ethical risks of AI. But there are also mitigation techniques and strategies that are out there that are very well defined that organizations can adapt to mitigate the risks and de-risk such concerns. So I would say to your question, so these are the two broad spectrums. The truth is always somewhere in the middle.
Mhm. So, looking ahead, what emerging trends in AI and regulation do you believe will have the most significant impact on risk management in the next few years? And how should businesses prepare for them?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, with the examples of web-based applications or the examples of SaaS applications, AI-enabled applications are going to be the default state in the next few years, right? So there is no turning back from that. So in that context, organizations one need to prepare their workforce to be conversant with AI, to be able to understand what AI systems are doing and how, to some extent, AI systems are taking the kind of decisions that they are, and also empower the humans in the loop to override any decisions of AI that they disagree with, right? So that is one important adjustment that companies will have to start making. Uh, Now, there is also an interesting development of AI that you see today, where a few years ago, AI was in a state where AI could understand, and then there was this ability for AI to reason, then AI could learn, right, with reinforcement learning. Now AI is in a state where AI can also act on behalf of the users. So you will see applications coming into play where AI can do a whole bunch of take in instructions from non-technical users and start to act on it. Now it is for these situations that organizations also have to have good controls in place where the AI systems don't go rogue per se, right? So they're able to define, regardless of the instructions the humans provide, have constraints in place to ensure untoward actions are not taken by the AI systems. So it's the emerging trend obviously is going to be an explosion of the use of AI, but for some of these potential risks, organizations have to put controls in place to ensure these AI systems don't go rogue, and companies have a net benefit of deploying AI systems.
Yeah, so it's a kind of AI agent that what they say, right? So
Yeah.
let's discuss about your experiences, MetricStream, because you guys work with many businesses on in the GRC space. How are you seeing your customers leverage AI in the GRC space, and what unique challenges do they face when they do so?
Yeah. So in our space, we look at AI emerging in two areas. So I would say, one is organizations, obviously with the whole concept of GRC, right? GRC, governance, risk, compliance, is a framework that allows companies to achieve its business objectives while ensuring that they stay compliant to the regulations. They do so in a very ethical manner, and they account for any risks and ensure that they are able to mitigate the risk. That in general what our domain is all about. Now in this context of the domain, you will see AI coming into play in one, companies being able to be comprehensive, right, and robust in their risk identification and risk management practices. That is, how can they be more comprehensive? How can they be more proactive in identifying potential risks and account for those risks and ensure that they mitigate those risks? So these are certain places where AI systems are getting used, which is basically getting risk insights, using AI systems to go through a ton of threat signals, correlate them with tomes of data that the organizations already have, create those correlations patterns, and alert risk analysts on potential pitfalls and risks. So these are certain areas where AI is getting used. And another place where we see AI getting used is on the efficiency angle, right? Now, can AI, as an example, uh, take on a lot of these rote work? Now, when you look at GRC, there is a whole lot of bookkeeping that one has to do in our space. Uh, Now, a lot of it is manual per se, right? Now we see how AI can actually do some of this work on behalf of the user, do all the manual laborious work, fill out, let's say, the forms, fill out a report, and then present it to the subject matter expert to finally review, edit, and approve. So this is another area where we see AI getting leveraged. And we at MetricStream, are leading the charge here with some of our offerings in AI, including a product called Aspire that we launched about a year and a half ago, with some of these core capabilities of AI-powered decision making, AI-powered risk insights, and also AI-enabled optimizations for some of these manual activities that I just spoke about.
Mm. All right, fantastic. So, Raghu, these were all my questions. Perhaps let's summarize for someone who is listening to this interview and would like to walk away with one or two major takeaways. What would that be?
Yeah, so I would probably make it very personal for folks if they want to just take one thing out of what we just spoke about. I would say, well, AI revolution is happening. Organizations are embracing AI. AI is going to be a default state in most products and technologies of the future. So professionals uh, uh, are advised, I would say, to get conversant with AI. AI, there may be certain things that individuals are doing now which may become rote redundant because of AI. However, the professional that will be most successful in future will be the individual who knows how to leverage AI to do whatever they were doing in a more effective and efficient manner. So it's, this would be one message that people need to take out. Let's get educated on what AI can do, and let's see how we can apply it for our own domains to be more effective and efficient.
And we don't need to be a PhD to apply this, right?
Absolutely not. You don't have to. It's interesting. I say this. AI systems and AI models have been around for a while now. Now, if you go back 10 years and you went into a room full of professionals and asked how many have actually used the AI model, you would see one or two out of 100 people, raising their hands. But you ask the same question today with the democratization of ChatGPT or, Gemini, you'll see about 90-95% of people raise their hands up. So, yeah, PhDs are not needed for us. Yeah.
All right. Thanks again. And I wish you and your company, MetricStream, great success and I hope to interview some your colleagues in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate it. I enjoy the conversation too, Boris. Thank you.
Bye bye.